Americans are always looking for the next best thing when it comes to snacking. Companies are constantly trying new items in hopes of hitting it big with a tasty treat. In the chip world, there are a lot of different varieties. Some are just plain potato chips, but there are also some for those who have more adventurous palates like the Flaming Hot Cheetos. However, there are some flavors and brands that have been discontinued. In this video, we will take a closer look at some of the classic chips that are no longer around. You may know the brand Planters because of their nuts and their mascot, Peanut Jr. Rest in peace to the late Mr. Peanut. But in the 1970s, the company took on the rival Pringles. They also came stacked in a can, but they were rigid, giving a crunchier texture. Planters ran ads putting them in head-to-head taste tests with Pringles. One commercial even showcased a nun who stated 13 out of 14 sisters preferred Planters to the other brand and that they tasted more like potatoes. Unfortunately, nuns everywhere have had to go without these stackable chips as Planters stopped making them. Crunch Taters were a Frito-Lay's product that were on the market in the late 80s and 90s. They had a major crunch due to their thickness and they came in two flavors, Hoppin' Jalapeno and Mighty Mesquite Barbecue. If you are a fan of the 1990 Christmas classic Home Alone, then you may have spotted these in the movie. A bag of Crunch Taters sat next to a can of Pepsi in the background as Kevin watched Angels with Filthy Souls. Despite this big promotion in the movie, Frito-Lay's decided to discontinue Crunch Taters in the mid-90s. In 1998, Lay's introduced their Wow range of chips across their Lay's, Tostitos, Doritos, and Ruffles brands. These chips contained Olestra, which was a fat-free alternative to their standard chips. Within the first year, they sold more than $347 million worth of these new chips. However, sales soon dropped after customers realized that Olestra acted as a laxative. Lay's became swamped with complaints from customers suffering from abdominal cramping, diarrhea, fecal incontinence, and other gastrointestinal symptoms after eating the chips. The company then added a warning to the bag that read, "This product contains Olestra. Olestra may cause abdominal cramping and loose stools. Olestra inhibits the absorption of some vitamins and other nutrients." This is certainly not something that you want to read as you are snacking on these chips. Lay's tried to rebrand Wow as Light, but they were dropped in 2016. Apparently, these chips had run their course. These chips are definitely not one that we would ever like to see make a comeback. Pizzerias were a creation from the Keebler Elves and were launched in 1991. They were made from pizza dough, and as the Keebler Elf said, it tasted like real pizza, only louder. These round chips were a huge hit and one of the Keebler's biggest successes, but they were discontinued in the late 1990s after the company was sold and broken up. O'Boisies were another snack from the Keebler Company. They are probably best remembered for their commercial with the Keebler Elf singing about how boisterous these chips were. These baked potato chips came in three flavors, which were original, barbecue, and sour cream and onion. They had a big fan base in the 1970s but were later discontinued. However, many people would love to see this one available again. In 2017, Keebler replied on Twitter to request to reinstate the brand. Thanks for your request to see O'Boisies back on the store shelves in the future. We love hearing from our fans. Tato Wilds hit the market in 1987 and were made by Keebler. They were marketed as an extreme snack with the tagline, "Rip into something wild." They were trying to tap into some of the extreme brands of the time, such as Surge, Vault, and Mountain Dew with their advertising. However, these waffled chips were taken off the market in 1999. O'Grady's potato chips were an extra thick, rigid chip that promised a stronger potato taste than other chips. They came in two flavors, which were plain and the cheesy au gratin. These chips were a huge hit in the 1980s, but were discontinued by the 1990s. If you are still craving these chips, then there are fans that have suggested that the Ruffles extra thick cheddar chips are pretty close. Bluebell barbecue potato chips were popular during the 1960s and 70s. They were also innovative for the time because their bag came sealed inside a cardboard box, which meant you were less likely to crush your chips when you were running around. These chips were a favorite of many due to their bright packaging and smoky flavor. Sadly, these chips are no longer sold today. Bluebell closed down their factories in 1995 after failing to sell the company. Cheetos Cheesy Checkers launched in 1995 and only lasted on the market for 3 years before being discontinued in 1998. These cheesy puffs had a waffle shape and boasted 33% more cheese on the outside of the bag. When they left the market, they were replaced by the Cheetos Zigzags, which lasted for 4 years. One other member of the Cheetos family that has been missed is a salsa con queso that was inspired by the flavor of chips and dips. They were launched in 2012, but they were discontinued by 2015. Joey chips were a hybrid chip that consisted of half potato chip and half corn chip. It was a product from General Mills and introduced in 1967. The company never hit it big with these snacks like they had with Bugles. In 1992, the trademark for Joey chips expired. Daddy Crisp was a snack during the 1960s and 70s that boasted two things. One, they were audibly crunchier than your average chip, and two, they were entirely natural. The bag read, "There's only one thing to start with when you're making real potato chips. You got it, real potatoes." The Daddy Crisp promise. We promise Daddy Crisp is 100% natural. There are no preservatives added, nothing artificial. We promise Daddy Crisp is made from the finest fresh potatoes, cooked in vegetable oil and sealed airtight while still warm. You can't buy a fresher potato chip than Daddy Crisp. We promise. Holy cow, that's a lot of promises. The product was ditched by the 1980s, which is probably for the best. They featured a weirdly sexual commercial that had the tagline, "Love your daddy." In 2005, Doritos launched Fiery Habanero and it blew the taste buds off of snack fans everywhere. This became their spiciest flavor, but they were discontinued in 2012. Many fans have wanted this flavor to make a comeback, and there are numerous Facebook groups pushing for this to happen. However, after more than a decade off the shelves, it's probably safe to say that this one is gone forever. In 1990, Doritos released a new flavor called Jumpin' Jack Cheese Doritos. At the time, Jay Leno was their go-to guy for all of their commercials, and he asked the youth of America what they liked best about it. All of the responding said cheese. Leno then said, "Could millions of American kids be wrong? Hey, we're not talking brain cells here, we're talking taste buds." However, these chips only lasted on the shelves for a few years before being discontinued. In 2013, they saw their way back onto the shelves as a limited edition pack. General Mills sold Chippo's potato chips during the 1970s and 80s. They were a crunchy waffle-shaped chip that were supposed to be less greasy and oily than other chips, and the commercials featured a napkin blot test to prove that they were. In 1969, the chips were criticized as not being a real potato chip. Chippos were made from potatoes that were cooked, mashed, and dehydrated, which resulted in potato granules. They would later be moistened, rolled out, cut into pieces, and fried. These tasty chips were discontinued in the 1980s. The chip industry has a lot to offer consumers. There are many on the shelves today that have been around for a long time. But if history has taught us anything in the chip world, it's that there will always be something new to try. Perhaps the next big one is just around the corner. What is your favorite chip, and are there any others that you would love to see come back? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching.